If you're talking of what you're talking about a while ago,
ASEF, sir.
ASEF, no?
ASEF.
I think I know the reason now. Because in ASEF, wala kayong nakolekta. Right. Because I was also one of the beneficiary of ASEF. At buong na Region 3, ako lang ata ang nakabayad. I don't know, maybe that is one reason kaya gustong pabalik sa inyo rather than paikutin nyo uli.
Ang ating pong mga rice farmers ay isa sa pinakamahirap sa ating komunidad. Kung titingnan po natin yung kinikita nila kada cropping season, siguro masasabi po natin na talagang hindi makatarungan na sila po yung nagtatanim, nagpapakain sa atin, pero sila po yung pinakamahirap sa ating komunidad. A manual rice farmer, halos wala pong kinikita. Siguro less than 500 pesos a month kung may kinikita pa sila. From a mechanical rice farmer, siguro po mataas na kung maka 5,000 pesos per month sila.
During the dry season, yield is 4.36 tons per hectare during 2023. So we are expecting na even with El Nino this year, 2024, and during the last season ng implementation po natin on 2025 dry season, will still improve further. Ano po? So pinakita din po natin sa maps kanina kung saan po yung areas or provinces na nahihit na natin yung 5 tons per hectare or more. So yun po, continuously every season po ay minomonitor natin saan natin nahihit yung target. And then in the other provinces where we are doing less than expected, we are also studying bakit hindi po natin siya nahihit. So that's why may mga kinonduct po kaming additional studies, for example, yung soil fertility analysis. So may mga kinonduct po tayong ganon to improve further on our performance in the other provinces where we observe less than expected performance po. So in terms of cost of production naman po, yung dry season cost po natin from 15.42 pesos per kilogram, na-hit na po natin yung 13.84 pesos per kilogram or 10% reduction po. So although almost 1.5 pesos per kilogram po yung reduction niya, but still this is just the we are showing the effect of improved yield. Yung reduction talaga ng production cost per hectare might come from the data of PhilMec kasi sila po yung nakakaapekto talaga dun sa production cost per hectare when mechanization is adopted. So ito po pinapakita natin is na-improve natin na-reduce natin yung production cost per hectare kasi nag-improve po yung yield level po nila. So far yun ma'am yung ating masasabi tungkol po doon sa key targets po na inilagay natin doon sa ating logical framework. Thank you ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If I may follow up, Director Lisa, so that means po these are on the side of the seeds seeds program pa lang, the 15% increase in income, the reduction in production cost by 10%. These are born out of the seeds program pa lang, or does this incorporate also improve productivity from the mechanization component, training component, credit component?
Opo. When we do that po kasi, yung ating sample nung survey where we get the data are the seed beneficiaries. But some of them are also recipient of the mechanization and extension and credit services. But hindi nga lang po lahat nung seed beneficiaries ay recipient nung other components. So, but there are part of them na naka-receive din po nung ibang interventions po natin. So I wouldn't say na it's just from the seed alone, kaya lang mas maipapakita po siguro nung PhilMec kung meron din silang survey nung mga mechanization recipients para maipakita po yung full effect po nung ating mechanization intervention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I think this brings out a point. One of our findings in our study many years ago, it's still the harmonization component that we're lacking on the part of RCEF. There seems to be a lot of traction in terms of the different programs separately, but we have yet to have like a harmonized approach. For example, when we target beneficiaries for the mechanization program, ideally, sila din yung makakatanggap na seeds, sila din yung makakatanggap ng training, sila din yung ito-target natin for credit. So I think it's more of an implementation issue that we need to address, which we found several years ago. But I am very much willing to work with the DA. I think this has to be under the scope of the RCEF PMO within the DA Central Office. Would be very happy to share the findings of the harmonization component. If I may, Chair, ask Philmec in terms of the accomplishments, because I looked through the study, the presentation of Philmec. It was more focused on utilization of budget, disbursement status. So if we may ask results-oriented po, ano po yung tangible impact nito pong mechanization component sa pagbaba ng gastusin na ating mga magsasaka? Mr. Chair, if I may direct the question to Director Boy
Yes,
Alvindia.
please proceed, Director Alvindia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kong Mika. At I would like to have this data first. For the 6 years implementation of RCEP, that is 30 billion pesos. We are estimating that the mechanization would increased by only 14%. So meaning mababa pa po talaga yung kayang ibigay nung RCEP para ma-measure po natin yung impact. But at any rate, we have this concrete data. For example, the production technology with the use of rotavators and other farm implements during the land preparation, there was a 50% reduction in the cost. For example, the usual rotavator rotavating the land, the private charging 5,000 to 6,000 pesos. But for the owner, for the what they call this, the cooperatives, they're charging around 3,000 to 5,000. So we can see the difference. Now, for the crop establishment, we have this direct seeder, which is you don't need to transplant, you don't need to seed bed, and they are only costing around 2,000 pesos per hectare, wherein the usual production cost range around 12,000 pesos per hectare. So you can see around 80 to 90% reduction in the cost. Now, for the harvesting, using the usual harvesting process, we are charging during the time ng thresher at gagapas pa around 16 kabans per 100 hectares. But the combined harvesters now are charging around 6 to 10 kabans per hectare. So you can see a 50% reduction in the cost. But accumulating all this, yun pa po yung kulang natin. Titingnan natin kung gaano ba katalaga ang magiging impact nito sa reduction. So the congressman from the first district of Nueva Ecija is really right. So we really to sit down and work together with PhilRice and with ATI, what would be the cumulative impact of all these components so that we can derive with a very good and science-based estimate on how really we are going now in reducing the cost. So at least meron na po tayong mga ballpark figures to work with. And I think I would like to reiterate again that we are estimating around 40 to 20% mechanization with 30 billion peso budget for 6 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I can cite some of the data from the study that we did with them in the initial scope. I think initially, kung mechanization lang po yung titignan natin, we were looking at at the time kasi medyo mababa pa yung uptake eh. Ayoko muna po i-cite kasi it might skew. It's actually a lot higher now. So we can work together, Chair, with DA in helping them do that evaluation. But I think what stands out now is in terms of mechanization, the mechanization program, only 14% have been mechanized, given the 30 billion that we've given PhilMec over the last 30 years. 6 years. 30 billion in the last 6 years. So ano po, that's why it's critical for us to I believe to extend RCEF for us to have more years to increase the mechanization of our farmers. And I'm very happy with the proposal of DA because it's in line with what I proposed in HB 212, which is to increase the budget for the mechanization component. The DA version is from 50% to 55%. In our proposal, it's to increase it by 500 million. So I think it's a little bit higher. Yun nga, it's a little bit. Is it same? My math is yeah, it's saktong-sakto po. Kaya natuwa po ako when I saw DA's proposal kasi that was really the suggestion and medyo spot on po because my suggestion also was to get it from ERCA or ERCA RCEF from the credit program. So medyo binasa niyo ba yung bill ko pero pero nagkataon po saktong-sakto yung proposal po natin. Mr. Chair, the second question that I had is directed to the Bureau of Customs, Attorney Comon. If we may ask, Chair, historically, how much are we earning from tariff revenues? Because as per the latest data that I have, we're looking at an average of 15 to 18 billion a year. 15 billion in 2020, 19 billion in 2021, and I think 2022 exceeded 15 billion as well. So if we may get an idea of how much we're earning from tariff revenues, Mr. Chair, from the Bureau of Customs.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chen. Good afternoon to the Honorable Congresswoman Swansing. As for the collection of the Bureau of Customs regarding rice importation, from the year 2019, we have collected an annual collection of 14 billion 888 million 803,886 pesos. Then 2020, we had a collection of 15.4 billion. On 2021, we had 18.9 billion. 2022, we had 22.7 billion. And 2023, we had 29.9 billion. 29.9 billion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, sorry, Attorney Coman, I didn't catch 2021. May I ask for
Sorry. For 2021, the annual collection for rice importation was 18.9 billion.
Okay, tama yung data ko. Nakasite sa House Bill eh, so buti lang tama. Okay, Mr. Chair.
With the indulgence of
Yeah.
Congressman Sansing.
Yes, Congressman.
May I ask the Bureau of Customs, I noticed no pataas yung collection. May I ask if yeah, tama naman magbabayad. Ang question ko is in terms of volume. Kasi there's a possibility that your collection is going up because the price of rice worldwide is also going up. So maybe you can give this committee in terms of volume per year.
Per year, sir. Congressman, for 2019, the annual volume of rice importation was this is in terms of metric tons. 3.1 million metric tons for 2019. For 2020, 2.3 million. 2021, 2.9. 2022, 3.8 million. 2023 is 3.5 million.
Medyo stable na. Ay, sorry po.
Yeah, actually, no, medyo nasa range of 3.4 something average
Average around 3.4 million.
3.4. May I ask, with the indulgence of one should say, may I ask DA, ano pa supposed to be ho talaga yung in terms of volume na dapat import? If I'm not mistaken kasi our country only needs around 10% if I'm not mistaken. So are we talking yung ini-import ba na yun, sobra or just enough doon sa sinasabi natin na kulang in terms of Philippine production?
If I may add, sir, the thing is, aside from our population also growing, the per capita consumption is also seems growing po. So it used to be before RTL, mga nasa 120 kilograms per person po ang parang nakikita na average per capita. Tapos dun po sa mga latest na supply utilization and account 2022 and 2023, di pa yata lumabas, maybe sa PSA po maano natin. But I think nasa 130 to 135 per capita consumption po yung lumalabas na datos.
Maybe the Department of Agriculture should do something about it, no? Because yung demand natin from 120 to 130, it's alarming, you know? And we have to take note, the more rice we eat, the more we are prone to have diabetes, no? So practically, I think baka number 1 na tayo, no? So if I remember, there's a certain secretary before who promoted na less rice at tanggalin ang only rice. I think kailangan i-consider ng Department of Agriculture so that baba natin yung ating per capita, itaas natin yung production para maibaba rin natin yung ating local imports. So kasi kung hindi nyo rin isasama yung per capita sa inyong program, continuous tong problem natin na paglaki ng ating needs in terms of rice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Kong Mika, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, BOC. I really wanted to understand how much surplus we have. Kasi when we drafted it in 2019, 2018, yung in-earmark lang natin for RCEF is 10 billion. And then everything else can be allocated towards different programs. And that's the reason why I'm also very happy with the proposal of DA when I took a look at it. Because we have now a more diverse menu of where we can allocate the surplus revenue. So in the DA proposal, it says here crop diversification trainings, post-harvest facilities, which I totally agree with. I think one finding as well, Mr. Chair, which we had during our study is we won't be able to realize or hindi magmamaterialize po yung targets ng RCEF unless we do it from end to end, from land prep to actual planting, to harvest, to post-harvest. And I think where a big chunk is missing right now is in post-harvest. So I'm very happy to see here that one of the targets is to provide better drying, milling facilities, warehouses for farmers. Nasa proposal ko din actually yung sunod, which is seeds and fertilizers assistance. So feeling ko talaga tinignan DA, pero okay lang yan. We're partners in this. So one is seeds and fertilizers assistance and solar power irrigation and small water impounding system. So I think now that we're looking at a surplus of about 19 billion for the year 2023. I don't know how it's going to look like for 2024, Mr. Chair. But when we look at the possible amendments to the rice tarifation law, to the way RCEF is crafted, it's very important that we nail down itong gagawin natin dun sa surplus revenues. Lalo na po yung sa irrigation component, we've discussed it in depth. But in Nueva Ecija, I echo the sentiments of my distinguished colleagues. paminsan po pag dumadating na yung seeds galing sa PhilRice, hindi nila magamit kaagad kasi wala namang tubig. And magkasama kami ni Kong Joseph, magkapit-bahay po kami. The Pantabangan Dam is our main source of water, and the levels of Pantabangan Dam are the water level right now is very, very low. So we're having this very big problem in Nueva Ecija in terms of irrigation. So hopefully we can work together with NIA to solve these problems through sweep, through the pumps, and through like dams that we can put in the different areas in our district. The next question, Mr. Chair, on a different topic, if I may direct this, Mr. Chair, to Land Bank, to a representative in Land Bank. I think one thing that stood out to a lot of the congressmen here as you were presenting is you were presenting figures saying that 4.6 billion have been disbursed for ERCA RCEF to 65,000 farmers and 310 cooperatives. Perhaps, Mr. Chair, if I may ask, how does this translate in terms of the coverage? Because when we did our study in 2020, the coverage for the credit program is only at 0.1%, which was very, very dismal. So if we may ask ERCA, RCEF, LBP or the DBP, what's the coverage if you translate 60,000 to as a percentage of the farmers in the country?
Good morning again, Mr. Chair and Congressman Swansing. So right now, Congressman Swansing, there are more or less 2.7 million rice farmers, and the 65,000 is probably less than 1% of that population. If I may manifest, Congressman Swansing, the annual budget of credit for both Land Bank and DBP is only 1 billion. Now, considering that our average loan amount to individual farmers is 89,000 with 50,000 as a loan amount per hectare, so we will be needing 135 billion to accommodate or to lend to those 2.7 million rice farmers registered under DA. So if I may manifest, it's a matter of limitation in the funding, Congressman Swansing. And on top of that, Congressman, we are also not allowed to use the loan collections because right now, for the past 6 years, when we have collected the prepayments from individual farmers and cooperatives, we are instead required to quarterly remit that to the Bureau of the Treasury instead of pulling it back to the funds to be relent. So this would probably for consideration that we have requested this several times, but the concerned agency would go back to the law because it's not explicitly stated in the law that reflows or loan collections can be plowed back to be relent to target beneficiaries.
Mr. Chair, perhaps that's a point for consideration. I think it's a revelation for many of us here. I personally did not know na bumabalik sa Treasury as opposed to it being rolled over. Because as with any financial institution, it should be like a rollover, like self-sustaining sort of thing. So
Yes.
perhaps, Mr. Chair, that can be one thing that pero sa IR na po yun or sa internal guidelines na yun eh. I don't think, do we want to put it will stipulate it under the amendment. So thank you for raising that, sir. Perhaps one thing I wanted to check was one of the findings that we had before is the individual farmers with 0.5 hectares of or below of land who we want to target with ERCA RCEF are not too keen in subscribing to formal financial institutions. Yung finding po namin, natatakot sila lumapit sa mga bangko, wala sila ng mga ID, kahit yung ID na rin require ng ng Land Bank or DBP kasi I think you're required two government issued IDs, and many of our small farmers, yung 0.5 hectares pababa, wala sila ng mga documentary requirements. So I would just like to ask, kasi yun yung one of our findings na ang baba ng coverage kasi ayaw po pumunta ng mga magsasaka natin sa bangko. So meron po bang ginagawa yung LBP or DBP in terms of not making medyo luwagan po ng konti yung documentary requirements para po yung mga magsasaka na gusto nating kumuha ng credit program ay makakakuha po nitong programa natin.
Can I respond now, Congressman? Yes. While we acknowledge po that there are really a good number of farmers which are quite hesitant to avail of loans directly from Land Bank or DBP, but the requirement of two government-issued IDs, Congressman, is an AMLA requirement, anti-money laundering law requirement to establish the identity of our borrowers. So, although we have been manifesting this in our various meetings with the BSP, but I don't know if it's they can probably go away with the requirement of a two government issued ID, because again, that's a AMLA requirement po.
Mr. Chair, with the indulgence of Congresswoman Sansing, may question lang ako. I actually agree with the Congresswoman Mika regarding do sa i-revolve yung fund no, na loan. I don't know kung sino dapat kong tanongin. Maybe DBM or I don't know if Land Bank na rin. I'm sure merong may reason kung bakit pinababalik sa inyo sa Treasury. Hindi naman siguro inilagay dyan yan nang wala silang reason. Just like yung nung tinanggal yung sa NFA yung pagbenta ng bigas, same reason. So maybe who can answer that? Because before I agree with her totally, gusto ko rin marinig yung reason kung bakit nilagay dyan na kailangan yung balik.
Congressman, can I answer po? Again po from Land Bank. So I would just like to inform the committee that before the RCEF, we have a legislated program which is as accessible, as affordable as RCEF. It's called ACEF, sir, Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, which is also at 2% per annum. And on that law, explicitly, it's stated that Land Bank can use the collections. Unfortunately, under RCEF, wala po siya. Kaya ginagawa pong basis na since it's not in the law, by default, we cannot implement it, sir. That's the response that we...
Maybe if you're talking of what you're talking about a while ago,
ACEF, sir.
ACEF, no?
ACEF.
I think I know the reason now. Because in ACEF, wala kayong nakolekta. Right? Because I was also one of the beneficiary of ACEF. At sa buong na Region 3, ako lang ata ang nakabayad. I don't know, maybe that is one reason kaya gustong pabalik sa inyo rather than paikutin nyo ulit. Because kung i-ACEF ang pagbabasihan, if I'm not mistaken, 80 to 90% ng pinautang nyo, hindi na bumalik. Am I right, Mr. Hidalgo?
Sir, may I qualify my answer po? So, sir, Land Bank was involved during the new ACEF po, sir. The ACEF extension law starting 2016. And right now, we don't have a past job 90%. We are collecting, and what we have collected so far, goes back to the individual farmers, which is ACEF, by the way, sir, is very retail like RCEF po, sir. So Land Bank, again, we are involved or we are administering the new ACEF starting 2016.
Yeah, please proceed, Kong Mika.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just one last question. I think to probably DA, because I don't know who handling the updates of the RSBSA. If I may ask, I think one of the issues as well from before, hindi po malinis yung RSBSA natin. Hindi po kompleto, hindi updated. So, unwillingly, nagkakaroon tayo na, meron tayong mga nadi-disenfranchise na mga magsasaka dahil lang hindi sila nakakapasok sa RSBSA. So, if I may ask, Mr. Chair, the Department of Agriculture, what's the status, what's the current status of the update of the RSBSA? Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you said this.
Madam Congresswoman, based on our data, first of all, there's an ongoing updating of RSBSA as also instructed by the Secretary because of some issues and gaps within the system. But as of March 19, a total registered farmers and within the system is about 9.36 million farmers. Breakdown as of based on farmers and fishers, 5.65 million are farmers, 2.48 are fishers, 1.9 are farm laborer, and 284,527 of these are agri-youth.
Mr. Chair, I think that's very, very important. As per the RSBSA, we have 5.65 farmers. But as per Land Bank a while ago, we have 2.7. In terms of the estimated number of farmers, so medyo malaki po yung discrepancy.
That's rice farmers po yung 2.5.
Guys, okay.
These
So
are,
this is meron po ba
total
tayong segmentation, Yusek Chris, as to the number of rice farmers?
wala po sa ngayon, pero sa RSBSA kasi we have yung mono crop lang, kung rice lang. Pero may a big chunk also has may rice corn or rice and fishers. So may available data po naman tayo nun pagka kinalout natin doon sa system.
If we may, Mr. Chair, request from the DA for our hearing tomorrow, how many are the rice farmers? Kasi pwede po 2 hectares and below. Because that's our target beneficiaries po for RCEF. Or ano po, if we could have like 2 hectares and below and then above 3 hectares and below.
We'll provide the data na ma'am, meron naman.
Meron na. Okay, sige, Mr. Chair.
Stealing rice farmers stealing less than 1 hectare, 1.45 million. 1 to 2 hectares, 1.1. So, meron naman stop with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Yusek Chris. We'll just ask for the data from the committee. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, finally, siguro po, since dapat magko-convene na po yung COCAFAM because we need to do the oversight, the evaluation of RCEF already because we're at supposedly parang year 3 or year 4 tayo dapat na magko-COCAFAM. So, end of 6, yung mandatory natin. Apo. Yes. We're hitting the 6-year mandatory review for RCEF this year. And I think the data or the view that Congress is still lacking as of now is the overall impact of RCEF. We need to perform that evaluation, not just of individual programs, but of holistically, ano po yung impact ng RCEF. So, I hope, Mr. Chair, that the DA would undertake this endeavor para po when we convene the COCAFAM, when we do the mandatory review this year, mabigyan po tayo ng full view as to the impact of RCEF holistically. We attempted to do that, right, Director Lisa? We attempted to do that before during our study. But of course, the data that I have right now are very, very preliminary because it was like year 2 of implementation. So again, I have some of the materials. Nag-develop po ako ng evaluation method as proposed to the DA. So I would be very happy to share my study if that would help the DA perform that overall holistic evaluation for RCEF but it's very promising. We're hearing bits and pieces of what the impact is. Pero siguro po, now that we're looking at extending the RCEF and how we can improve it for the succeeding years, this would be the best time for us to do that evaluation, para po we can make adjustments. And at least we can go back to the public, to our dear farmers. Masasabi po natin sa kanila, ito yung naging epekto ng RCEF sa ating mga magsasaka. Kaya, Mr. Chair, we still have tomorrow for all of the deliberations of the measure. So if I have other questions, Mr. Chair, we'll reserve it for tomorrow pa. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Kong Mika. So before we proceed, the chair would like to acknowledge the presence of James Jojo Ang, the Honorable Congressman of Uswag, Ilonggo. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We now move along to recognize the Honorable Angela Garcia.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues and all our national agencies. Firstly, siguro gusto ko po magpasalamat sa lahat ng mga national agencies sa suporta sa mga magsasaka natin, lalong-lalo na po sa lalawigan ng Bataan. I think yung ginagawa po natin, itong RCEF po ay napakahalaga, and isa po ako sa naniniwala na sana po talagang ma-extend itong RCEF para mas lalo pong matulungan yung ating pong mga rice farmers. Pag matutulungan po natin yung mga rice farmers natin, of course, tataas yung ating rice production, tataas yung kita nila, magiging supisyente ang ating stocks ng bigas para po sa lahat ng Pilipino. Si Kong Mika kanina was discussing a lot from policy and top level. I wanted to give the perspective from the farmers' point of view. Lingid naman po sa ating lahat na ang ating pong mga rice farmers ay isa sa pinakamahirap sa ating komunidad. Kung titingnan po natin yung kinikita nila kada cropping season, siguro masasabi po natin na talagang hindi makatarungan na sila po yung nagtatanim, nagpapakain sa atin, pero sila po yung pinakamahirap sa ating komunidad. From manual to mechanical, makikita po natin na may improvement naman, at makikita po natin sa datos kanina na meron naman po talagang improvement. Pero kung titignan po siguro natin yung mismong magkano ang kinikita nila, medyo maawa po talaga tayo sa ating mga magsasaka. A manual rice farmer, halos wala pong kinikita. Siguro less than 500 pesos a month kung may kinikita pa sila. From a mechanical rice farmer, siguro po mataas na kung maka 5,000 pesos per month sila. So, hindi pa po dito kasama kung nangutang sila. At katulad ng napakita po natin, hindi po lahat ng ating mga rice farmers ay nakaka-avail or nabibigyan po ng pautang. So kumakapit po sila sa patalim, at ang katumbas po ng 1,000 utang, kung mangungutang po sila ng 20,000, ang halaga po ng 1,000 utang ay 23,000 sa presyo ng palay ngayon. So mas lalo pa po silang nalulubog. Hindi pa po natin binibilang kung may irrigation, may tubig. Hindi pa po natin binibilang, Mr. Chair, kung nakalamidad, at magsisimula na naman po sila sa simula. So makikita po talaga natin na yung budget na binibigay po natin para po sa ating rice farmers, pag titignan natin in the billions, malaki. Pero pag hahati-hatiin po natin, it's really spread out too thin. Wala po tayong impact na malaki na nararamdaman ng ating pong mga magsasaka. And natutuwa po ako na nandito po lahat ng ahensya na nakakausap po natin sa baba sa mga local government units natin. And gusto po talaga natin patunayan sa mga magsasaka na tama tong batas na to. Tama po itong polisiyang ito. Pero katulad ng nabanggit po ni Kong Mika, ang findings po talaga, may programa si PhilRice, may programa si DA, may programa si PhilMec, may programa si Land Bank, si NIA, pero hindi po kumpleto yung binibigay natin sa bawat magsasaka. So I think we have to establish a proof of concept na kumpleto. So kailangan po natin siguro tignan din yung pinakita pong datos ni USEC na ganito karami yung less than 0.5, ganito karami yung 1 hectare. Kung ako po ay isang magsasaka na mahirap at ang meron po akong 2 hektarya pero wala po akong pera, hindi ko po yun matatamnan lahat. So hindi po siya makakatulong sa rice production sufficiency na gusto po nating lahat. So I think kailangan po talaga natin ipakita sa lahat ng national agencies, sa Kongreso, sa taong bayan, lalo na po sa mga magsasaka, na ito yung batas at polisiya para po sa atin. So, in our own little way, Mr. Chair, nakipag-ugnayan po kami sa ating mga ahensya dito at gumagawa po kami ng parang pilot project somewhere between 50 to 100 hectares of consolidation. Kasi kung hindi rin po tayo magko-consolidate, wala po tayong mapapala. Di po ba? At kung hindi po natin i-harmonize lahat yung tulong natin, wala rin pong mararamdaman yung mga magsasaka. So we're very thankful, Mr. Chair, na through PhilMec, through PhilRice, through DA, through NIA, ay talagang we will try this wet season to give from land prep to harvest. The complete one is yung kung anong ratio kailangan ng mechanization para sa 50 hectares o 100 hectares man to. Hindi po meron ito pero wala nung isa. So kumpleto, bibigay po buo yung binhi at yung fertilizer. Kasama po yung soil testing na siguro Mr. Chair gusto ko rin pong kunin itong pagkakataon na i-promote yung advokasya po namin nila Kong Edibong, nila Kong Baskug on soil science. Dahil wag lang po sana yung NPK yung ating pong tinetest, pero yung lahat ng elemento na nasa lupa para maging mas sustainable po tayo. At ito po ay talagang napakahalaga. Bukod po dito, syempre, yung pong karaniwang ginagawa po ng ating mga magsasaka ay palay ang binebenta, hindi po bigas. So talagang siguro gawin natin yung buong cycle, pakita natin na from 4 metric tons, naging 6 metric tons, naging 10 metric tons, magkano yung net income ng ating mga magsasaka. Para sa gayon, merong ngipin yung batas, makuha natin yung suporta at partisipasyon ng mga rice farmers dahil may nakikita sila na kumpletong implementasyon nito pong batas. Lastly na lang po, Mr. Chair, siguro po pinag-uusapan po ang irrigation. Sorry, two more points. Pinag-uusapan po natin irrigation aside from syempre yung normal na pakiusap ng mga farmers natin na pag-aralan yung elevation kasi yung dulo hindi po inaabot. I think yung solar power irrigation ay dapat po talaga natin pag-aralan. At saka po siguro bukod sa irrigation, napakahalaga po yung drainage. Hindi po natin tinitingnan yung drainage ng mga farms. Kaya po nabubulok, kaya po pag umuulan o bumabagyo, sira na po lahat kasi nakaimbak po dun sa farm nila yung tubig kasi walang drainage. So wala pong ahensya tumutulong sa mga magsasaka ukol po sa drainage para sa gayon yung tubig ay sapat lamang pero lumalabas at hindi po nakakasira sa ating pong mga produkto o mga commodities. And lastly, Mr. Chair, with NFA, hindi ko po alam kung maaari po bang madagdagan yung mandato po ng NFA na bukod po sa buffer stock na pwedeng bilhin sa mga magsasaka, ay baka pwede pong magbigay po sila ng post-harvest services sa mga magsasaka. Baka po pwedeng mag-imbak ang mga magsasaka ng kanilang palay sa warehouses ng NFA. Baka po pwedeng yung rice milling and mechanical drying na meron ng NFA, mabigay din po na serbisyo sa mga magsasaka para po sa gayon talagang full cycle buong value chain yung ating pong pag-aralan. We have to minimize post-harvest and agricultural losses kasi ang pinaka nagsasuffer sa lahat ng inefficiencies ng value chain natin, yung mahirap po nating magsasaka na sila po'y naghihirap para po may kinakain po tayong bigas. Kaya po, Mr. Chair, full support po sa proposed bill na itatalakay bukas. Gusto po namin i-push yung aming pong pilot project ngayong wet season to really show na RCEF works and RCEF is pro the farmer. And hopefully po makita po natin yung magandang resulta para po mas mabigyan natin ng basihan yung hopefully extend ng bill na ito para po talagang matulungan yung lahat po ng ating mga magsasaka. Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Kong Gila. May we get a reaction dun sa mga magandang puntos na binanggit ni Congresswoman Garcia?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Parang kausap namin si Secretary nung nagsalita si Congressman Garcia kasi punto by punto yan din po ang instruction po ni Secretary. Para po sa kalaman, hindi lang naman RCEP yung programa ng Department of Agriculture for rice. Meron tayong National Rice Program na kung saan mas malaki yung pondo doon. Pero ang RCEP at ang NRP is a critical pillar ng Masagana Rice Industry Program. Isa sa masagana, apat na strategies po ito. Masagana, matatag, meaning binibigyan mo siya ng resiliency sa pagbibigay ng tamang teknolohiya, kasama yung soil health management, kasama yung available applications and technologies para kung alam niya kung kailan siya dapat magtanim. Yung koordinasyon sa pagbibigay ng tubig is importante doon. Ang kanyang shifting ng cropping calendar, isa sa focus ng MRIDP is mas malaki yung porsyento ng pagpapalay sa dry season compared to wet season para maiwasan yung kung hindi man maiwasan, ma-minimize yung losses natin pag tag-ulan. Sama-sama, isa sa ini-institutionalize natin yung clustering. Tama po kayo na considering yung average is 5.5 to 1.5, hindi niya kayang lumaban sa merkado. So kailangan nila mag-consolidate, hindi man sa ownership but physically or contagious yung area mag-consolidate. Ngayong taon 100 hectares pero gusto ni SEC by next year 1,000 na para kung saan lahat ng interventions ng DA or ng RCEP doon na sila tumutok. Seeds, fertilizer, biofertilizer, and other soil ameliorants, machineries, post-harvest facilities. Kaakibat noon, meron po tayong tinatawag na ganado, which is yung pag-join nila sa whole value chain. So sa whole value chain, alam naman natin may mga asosasyon na medyo maliit lang, may mga asosasyon na malaki. Doon nililink po natin yung mga maliliit lang, baka po pwedeng yung produkto nila, kung 100 o 50 hectares lang sila, ay ibigay doon sa Big Brother na konsepto. At doon sa Big Brother, yung mas medyo matatag na asosasyon, doon nakabigay yung mga milling and drying facilities. Sila na yung tutulong. Or pwede rin naman yung mga clusters na yun, i-connect natin sa mga iba't ibang enterprises like hotels and restaurant. Dahil galing ako sa DOT, so we can link them to these tourism-related enterprises o even mga traders and millers natin na naandyan sa baba at mabigyan din ng pagkakataon na maibenta nila so that cluster kasi yung marketing or yung bargaining power mo no sa presyo is nandoon. So yung pong clustering is a very critical aspect na tinututukan sa Masagana Rice Industry Program na kung saan nakapapaloob yung RCEP and yung National Rice Program.
Yes, please proceed, Kong G.
Mr. Chair, question lang po kasi syempre we want to defend RCEF. Dito po kung kunyari, meron na po ba tayong parang study sa kung full mechanization, full credit, full services ang mabibigay po natin? Gaano po kataas yung kikitain ng bawat magsasaka? Kasi talaga po ngayon, below minimum wage sila at the very positive side na yon. Lahat ng farmers, sigurong natitira lang po sa kanila yung 10 kabang bigas o 10 kabang palay na pangkain po nila sa pamilya. So, ang gusto natin, syempre, in the end, kung ine-expect natin sila na magtanim at ine-expect natin na, sige, full production mo yung bukid mo, kailangan kumita po sila or else the young generation wala na pong magtatanim kasi wala palang pera doon, pagod ka pa. So parang we have to be able to give that financial or that economic sense na kaya tayo nagpapatanim, hindi para parang sugal yung tingin po nila sa pagtatanim, pero dahil maganda ang kita sa pagtatanim. So yun siguro yung hopefully mapuprove po natin, Director Alvin, diba, Alvin Diaz dito sa ating small pilot project. Pero we have to show na 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 a month ang kita net ng bawat magsasaka. Or else, bakit sila magtatanim kung hindi sila kikita?
Siguro ma'am, bago ko pasalitain si sorry,
Go ahead, please,
si Doc Lisa. Base doon sa initial assessment kasi nila, not only sa inbred but sa hybrid, may mga probinsya kasi na nakita yung sa datos, high yielding siya pero high cost of production. May high yielding pero low cost. May low yielding pero low cost din. Ito yung mga nag-organic ano. So okay lang kung low cost. Pero may low yielding pero napaka high cost. So isa sa mga katulong yun siguro sa amin din sa rice program, kung ito lang yung budget namin, mag-strategize kami tactically kung saan ba dapat kami mag-concentrate pag wet season at dry season. Isa sa nakatulong yun, makakatulong yun sa 2025 namin na programming kung saan na ba dapat ang mga lugar kami mag-concentrate. Both for inbred na nasa RCEP and also sa hybrid na ini-implementa ng rice program. With regard doon sa kung pagbigay ka ng machinery, kung nagkaroon ka ng incremental yield, siguro ibigay ko na kay Doc Lisa.
Ma'am, may mga projects naman po na pinag-usapan na magkaroon po talaga ng full convergence kasi hindi naman po natin talaga magagawa sa lahat ng dako dahil some farmers or group of farmers, yun kunyari seed lang talaga yung kailangan nila or in some places machinery lang talaga yung pangangailangan. Tapos ma'am, it is true na wala pa tayong kinoconduct talaga na study about what will happen if the full array of services of RCEP will be given. So meron po tayo sa ngayon, may mga inumpisahan naman na po, hindi pa lang talaga nakakarating sa pagkuha ng datos kung ano yung naging effect. So yun ma'am ay magandang input po na dapat magawa natin siguro before we start the new phase kung ma-extend nga po yung programa. Kasi that would entail a different strategy on how we do things. Alam na, I think nag-agree naman din po kayo na maganda kung ma-extend pero kung papaano natin siya efficiently mas gagawin pa ng mas mabuti, yun po yung makakatulong para yung next stage implementation po natin ay mas maayos. We agree with you, ma'am.
Manifestation na lang, Mr. Chair. I think with rice, mas simple mag-pilot, maggawa ng proof of concept, and then mas mabilis mag-scale up. So, kunyari, we're hoping this 50 to 100 hectare mini project po namin ng PhilMec, pag magawa po itong successful, ang next scale nito 1,000 na. Of course, hopefully with the support of all the agencies and the farmers kasi meron na tayong proof of concept na pinapakita sa lahat na pagbigyan mo nito, ito yung katumbas na incremental increase na malaki yung impact sa mga farmers. Kasi in the end, yun yung gusto natin, less on the importation, optimal use of our rice areas, and ultimately increase talaga the economic status, the socio-economic status, and the net income of all our rice farmers. And if we do that, we solve so many problems that the country is facing. Most likely all the SDGs we will be solving if we solve agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kong Gila. May dagdag po kayo, Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Congressman Gila, at for reminding me of PhilMec commitment on your yeah. Opo. Just to inform this committee that PhilMec is giving machinery support for cooperatives. So yun na po yung approach natin na may 50 hectares ka, grupo yan, ibigyan natin ano. Kasi efficiency po kasi ng isang tractor is almost 30 hectares lang ang isang traktora. Kaya yun po kasing nakagis na natin dito na tatraktorahin mo tapos hand tractor. Pero based sa experience ko po, kasi rice farmer ako, I don't use hand tractors anymore. It's four-wheel tractor na para mas malakas yung horsepower niya, mas maganda yung leveling, mas maganda yung paggawa ng kung ano-ano pa. So, ang ano po natin dito, rest assured yung pong body na yun po yung talagang ginagawa natin, the consolidation and all the and we are teaming up with the National Rice Program on really how to address this problem on consolidation. Thank you very much po.
Thank you, Director Alvin Dia. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Chair, last, I think I failed to mention, which is one of the pinaka-vital components of our pilot project, is the importance of having the LGUs on board. So the municipal agriculturists, the provincial agriculturists, they are the link to the farmers. So nung nag-roadshow po kami na sabi namin, farmers mangutang kayo sa land bank. Without that, yung tiwala nung farmer dun sa agri-technician, hindi siya mangungutang. Pero dahil tiwala po siya dun sa kumakausap sa kanila, umuutang sila. So napakahalaga po nung linkage ng national with the LGUs kasi the farmers, ang araw-araw po nilang nakikita at kinakausap ay yung mga technicians po natin at the local level. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kong Gila.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes,
Sa
sir.
NFA
Sir
po,
Mario, oh.
yes sir, magbigay lang po reaction kay Congressman Garcia. Malugod po namin sinasabi sa inyo ngayon, balita na doon po nung pumasok po si former Administrator Biocco, na ngayon naman po ay si Administrator Lacson, meron po kami tinatawag na modernization of post-harvest sa NFA. Ito po yung MAFIM, Masaganang Agri-Food Infrastructure Modernization Program, na ito po yung sinasabi po ni Secretary Chiu Laurel, over a period hanggang 2028 ay 93 billion po ang gugugulin para sa pagpapaunlad, pagmamodernize po ng mga post-harvest facilities ng rice and corn. Sa ngayon po ay meron po kaming 5 billion na pesos po na pwede po namin gamitin para po sa aming post-harvest facilities modernization. At ito na po yung balak namin simulan itong taon na ito. At in fact nga po nung aming pong April 11 council meeting, andito po si Director Nieves Natural, siya na rin po yung nagsabi sa amin na tulungan ang mga farmers gamitin din itong aming modernization of post-harvest facilities NFA. Through po ito yung makabagong pamamaraan, the mother and daughter station, hub and spoke po pinaka-principle nito. Pag mother station po ito po ay kumpleto hanggang rice mill. Tapos po yung daughter station po yung mga kanugnog na probinsya. Wala po itong rice mill, hanggang drying lang po ito. So ito po mga itatayo namin mga post-harvest facilities ay makikinabang po ang ating mga magsasaka over a period of time hanggang po 2028. Doon naman po sa pag-iimbak ng mga ani ng ating magsasaka, binubalak na po namin buhayin muli ang aming programa na FOBB, Farmers Option to Buyback Scheme, na kung sa palagay naman po nila ay tataas ang presyo sa merkado, pwede po nilang bawiin muli ang kanilang mga palay na nakaimbak sa aming mga bodega para naman po makatulong na mapataas ang kanilang kita bilang magsasaka. Ngunit inayos lang po namin na mabuti ang aming pong polisiya na to, programa, para naman po ito yung mag-i-intune doon po sa aming buffer stocking mandate na ngayon po yung ginagawa ng National Food Authority. So yun po yung mga bagong gagawin po namin sa National Food Authority.